Hello everyone, uh, welcome to the next session of testing fundamentals. Here we will be discussing the different types of testing which I had listed in my previous session. Just to recap, we had discussed that software testing is verification plus validation. What is verification? It is the process of verifying whether we are developing the right product or not. And what is validation? It is the process of validating validating the developed product against the requirements and to ensure that it is right. So verification and validation. Now based on this, there is a testing model which we discussed last time. I hope you can recollect this model. It is a V model which is very commonly used in the software industry, and it is verification validation, right? So the left side, that is steps 1 2 3 4 5 on the left side of this are all verification, the other side is all validation, right? So you have customer requirements, that is review requirements, and then you have system requirements, high level design, low level design, that is step 4. Step 5 is coding. Then after you come to the stages, then build units, integrate, build system and deploy. And the parallel to that for testing is the code review, unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and finally acceptance testing. This is just to quickly recap the V model for you. So coming back, I will be covering the different types of testing and the testing process as well in this session. So we listed a lot of different types of testing in our previous sessions, the first one being unit testing. So in unit testing, we look at the individual unit component and you look at the code, right, and you analyze the defects and verify functionality at the unit level, that is at the code level. And in this stage, it's the developers who are doing unit testing, and the defects are completely fixed at the coding level itself. The integration testing, there is an integration of the components to a module. So at the module level integration, you're doing integration testing. So here it's the interaction of two, say, pieces of code or two pieces of systems which is developed individually and tested in the unit testing phase. Now integration testing is just to ensure that the integration works fine for the multiple components and different parts of the system. Now we say functional testing, the third step, which is functional or system testing. So here we try to detect any defects or discrepancies against the functional specification of the application, and you analyze the actual behavior of the application. So here our main goal or intention is to ensure that the product meets the intended functional specs which were laid out in the initial phases of the project. And as soon as you find a defect, you log the defect in the tool like Quality Center. Now for functional testing, all the black box methods which I evaluated in the last training session, that is mainly equivalence partitioning, boundary value analysis, are utilized here for functional testing. Now system testing, you are looking at the system as a whole, okay, and you are going to do both functional and non-functional testing. So non-functional meaning performance, security, stress, right. Now in system testing, there are many types of testing which we will be doing, which is usability, performance, load, stress, security, compatibility, availability and volume. Let's look at those individually. Usability testing is to ensure that the application is easy to use by end customers, right? Performance testing is to ensure that the application response is as required by the customer as per the limits set by the end users. Stress testing is to subject the system to extreme pressures in a short span of time. That is, for example, simultaneous you log on of 500 users, or you are trying to saturate the load of transactions, etc. Configuration. You are going to deploy the application onto a client system, so you will be ensuring that the software that you are testing is compatible to all types of hardware. Compatibility testing is to ensure that the software performs well in a specific hardware software operation system browser combination. Acceptance testing. Acceptance testing, the main goal is to establish confidence that the system is ready for final deployment into the production environment and used by the end customer. I think you must have heard of a term called beta testing and alpha testing. So these are acceptance testing types. Now let us go to the main objectives of the different types of testing. In development testing, the main objective is to cause as many failures as possible. In acceptance testing, the main objective is to confirm the system works as expected as per the functional requirements which were defined in the initial stages of the project. In maintenance, your main objective is to ensure that no new errors have been introduced. There are other types of testing apart from what I have listed so far, which is like mutation, regression, retesting, localization. So let's go to regression testing. Regression testing is re-execution of a certain test set because there were certain defects fixed, and you want to ensure that the new defect fix has not introduced some other problems. So you are doing a regression testing to ensure that all other functionality performs as expected and the defect fix is working fine. Retesting. Why do we do retesting? Because all software products need to keep changing from time to time. So you need to keep updating, the requirements keep changing from time to time. The clients want to upgrade the software from time to time. So you need to retest every new version of the product. Localization is adapting the software to a specific locale, and you take into account its language, local conventions and culture. That is called localization testing. Internationalization testing is involving adaptation of the software so that it's working fine with various languages and regions without any major engineering changes. Okay, now let's look at the target of testing. So you do functional testing, and the target of that is to test what the system does, and we also have to consider the external behavior of the system, and you will test it all possible levels. So you will send various types of outputs and various steps of inputs to this software system and see the outputs. Now coming to non-functional testing, right? You are testing how the system works, say in an extreme stress or higher load or saturation of the load in a varying scale, and you're quantifying the results of how it performs at those levels. Now when you're looking at testing related to changes, that is regression testing, you are testing that the original defect fix is working fine and the defect is removed from the application. However, there are no new defects introduced because of that defect fix. Now let's look at the testing process. The project life cycle, which you can see here, is initiation, definition, solution, construction, transition, termination. The test process is test planning, test preparation, test execution, and analysis. So in the test planning stage, you create a test plan. It is generally done by the project leaders or test leaders, team leaders, as we can say. Test preparation, which is the system requirement study, then you create the test design, and it goes into review and approval stages. Thereafter you create test cases and prepare the test data. Now the data here, we mean that you're doing equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis. So you are deciding that for the equivalence partition classes that you created, you will have certain data. For the boundary value analysis which you have done, you will also have the boundary values and boundary value plus and minus 1. So that is the data we're talking about here, which you need to have ready in the test designing phase, so that in execution there is no ambiguity. Now coming to the test execution part. So you have a certain set of test cases which you create into a test set for execution. You execute those, report those defects, and you fix the defects. Sometimes there are some updates to the defects, and sometimes there are some updates to the test cases as well, and you do retesting and regression testing. From this phase you come up with a test report, right? So the three phases that you can see here is test planning, test preparation, and test execution. Now after all this, you have a set of defects that you have found for the entire application. So you do a root cause analysis to figure out which stages of your software development life cycle are most defects introduced, and you find out the causes and you identify actions so that the next time you develop a product, you don't make the same mistakes again. So it's for improvement, to better procedures in the organization. That's it. Thank you so much.